Alright guys, it finally happened. You see the motor sitting here, see the four-wheeler. Yep, this four-wheeler right here, this is the first piece of equipment I bought for my farm, was this four-wheeler, and it is arguably, definitely the most used piece of equipment that I own for the farm. Now I do have a spare four-wheeler, a second one. I use it quite a bit, but this one's the four-wheel drive. I use this one to put out hay and everything else. The engine is out of it, you can tell. So this engine started, I could hear a knock. Here's the engine right here. I could hear a knock in it, and so I got my screwdriver and I started listening to it. I listened down low. I mean, I listened all over, and the knock was definitely louder down low. I could hear it some in the top. I couldn't hear it at all around the sides, but I could hear it a little bit in the top, and then very pronounced in the bottom. So I'm assuming, I don't want to go any farther with the machine. I let a couple other people listen to it over the phone, and they were thinking kind of the same thing I am, that I've got to, I don't want to take any chances. So I'm going to rebuild this motor. I've already done some work with this machine. This is a machine that I have to use all the time, and it is cheaper just to rebuild these than it is to buy a new one. And I could buy a used one, but then I'm buying something I don't know. I don't know how much somebody's tore into it or anything. But if I just keep the same bike and I rebuild it, then it ends up being a lot cheaper. So I've done a lot of the work already. I've already gone through some stuff, cleaned up some stuff, fixed some things on here. So I know there's a lot of parts that are wear parts that I've already repaired, and I may repair a few more. It is very dirty, things like that. It started to get quite wore out. You can see the big pile right there. That's the pile of stuff that came off the four-wheeler. You're gonna have to excuse the mess everywhere else. We haven't shown any videos on it yet, guys, but we did a lot of construction here in the shop. We have a loft built, so as a result, everything is kind of pulled out in the shop. The shop is just a mess because we had to move everything out of the way in order to build this loft. So we are in the middle of construction, so we will get to some videos if anybody wants to see anything on that. But today's video, we are going to look at this engine and see whether or not it needs a top end or a bottom end rebuild. Well, if I do a bottom end, I'm going to do the whole rebuild. But that's what we're going to try to find, is whether this engine needs a bottom end rebuild. So for some reason, I've always enjoyed small engines. I haven't worked on them a lot myself. I've done more work on things like welding machines and tractors. But I remember growing up seeing my family, different brothers, even my dad, working on these small engines and doing different things. It's kind of something that I've enjoyed watching, and kind of something I wouldn't mind starting to do a little bit more of, maybe as a hobby. So as I tear this down, there is a bit of a bittersweet feeling, somewhat of a desire to not have to tear this thing all the way down, because I really don't want to have to rebuild it. But a little bit of a feeling that if I do, it won't be that bad. I feel like a breaker bar doesn't get enough credit in these places. When you have plenty of room, a breaker bar is actually kind of handy, because you can flip it over and use it as a screwdriver after you get done breaking everything off. Now, because I know somebody in the comments will mention it, yes, I am aware that I can absolutely check to see if this needs a bottom end rebuild without pulling the motor. But this four-wheeler, I've had it for quite some time, and honestly, it really needed quite a bit of work in a lot of different places. So I just decided it was best to go ahead and tear it all down. Plus, with that knocking, I was fairly positive. This top end comes loose in 3 separate sections. Just be careful on that last section that you don't break those piston rings, just in case you don't have to rebuild it. Now right here you can access the crank. That way you can get in here and actually turn the piston, and you can see what's really going on. You can raise the piston up and get a good look at it, and then later you'll have to shift it a little bit and you can actually check it. But you can see there, you can definitely tell there's some scoring on that piston, some wear for sure. Now I checked in here, this is what pushes your push rods. Now I don't know what I'm looking at on this, but to me this feels rock solid. Now I'm going to talk to somebody that does these four-wheeler engines more. I welcome anyone's comments on this engine. If y'all know anything about this, what I should be looking for. If you don't know for sure, please don't comment. But if you do know, if this is something you have expertise on, then I would appreciate your comment on that. We are going to do some more work. What me and my brother did when he came over was we actually strained the oil and sifted all of that, sifted it out, and just checked to see if we could see any metal filings or anything. I did not see any metal filings in there at all. I mean, I really dug through it and looked at it. I couldn't see anything like that. Everything looked clean to me. You know, it was black, obviously, but it looked like what motor oil is supposed to look like. You know, there's some carbon buildup on here, but nothing, to me, it doesn't look like anything that would be out of the ordinary. Like if I look at all of this and I look at my valves, things like that, it's going to need some cleaning, but I don't see anything out of the ordinary there. Alright, getting down a little bit deeper into the engine, we need to take this retainer ring out. This is kind of similar to a snap ring. It doesn't work like a snap ring, but it kind of holds like a snap ring. But if you're not really careful, this ring will either fall down in your engine and mess it up. That's why you see me with all this protection around here. I've got it stuffed full of stuff, and then I've covered it with napkins afterwards. I want to make sure that if it does fall out, that it's going to have somewhere to catch. But also, I have this little magnet right here really close, so right when it pops out, hopefully that magnet will catch it. That's kind of your goal. And I'll move my hand here in just a minute once I get it set and let you watch it come out. you have to get this ring out. You only need one ring out, and you can tell I've got one side, and then from there you'll be able to drive that pin. But you really want to be careful here, because you can absolutely sling that thing across everywhere. And if you don't have to rebuild the motor, or if it's minor, you really don't want to lose this stuff. And some rebuild kits don't offer everything, so it's not good to just leave it. You do have to watch, because your screwdriver will stick to the magnet. And there it is, perfect. See, if I didn't have that magnet there, it would have dropped down into the engine. Definitely works really, really well. The next step is to get a punch and to drive that out with your punch. I made sure that I chamfered the edge of this first, made sure it was good and clean before I go driving that through there, just in case. I don't want anything hanging up and scratching anything in there. Pretty tight. Almost there. So after pulling it out, you can definitely tell there's some pretty good scoring on here. Alright guys, so that concludes it. It does not need a bottom end rebuild. That makes me so happy. I was a little concerned because I was hearing the knocking in the engine, but after really looking down into it, I called my mechanic. Fortunately, I have several good mechanic friends and brothers as well that are really good mechanics. I know a little bit about it. I know enough to be dangerous, but looked into it and everything. All it's going to need is a good top end rebuild. This right here, it's got some scoring on the actual engine, so evidently this thing's gotten hot one too many times, or it would indicate that it's been low on oil. I don't run this four-wheeler myself every day anymore. Now that we have hired help, I do not run it every day. I'm not blaming that at all on anybody else. It could be just as well my fault. My wife runs it. I hired help. I run it. You know, we all run it now. But also it could be getting overheated too. So it could also, that's a water-cooled engine. So it could be that the fan is not kicking on as often as it should be. So I'm really going to have to check that. And I wouldn't blame, I'm not going to blame that on anybody else. That's my fault. That's something I should have made everyone else more aware of, and I should have been checking it more. I've just been real busy, and now that we've got more tractors and more four-wheelers and more people running stuff, it's just getting to that point. So most likely this is my fault. that it did get too hot, and so now it's got the piston has started to slap. They call it piston slop or piston slap, and so we'll probably end up ordering a new piston. You can either machine this or order a new one of these. Apparently it is fairly affordable to order one, so we'll look and see what's the best price on that. While we've got it apart, obviously we'll clean up all the parts and all like that. Everything else feels really tight. Like when I feel all of this right here, it feels good. Everything feels excellent. I mean, it is a good Honda 500 motor. I mean, that's what you expect when you have a Honda, is this, they're just good, solid machines. So I'm very happy about that. Very happy that that's all I'm going to have to do. So y'all stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and you can see that new video. We'll do a full top end rebuild on it, and we may even show us putting it back together if that's something you would like to see. Now I wish I would have done a video tearing it down, because I looked everywhere for videos and I found videos on the internet of people tearing that down. There are no good videos. All of them are terrible, and I hate it. I'm not knocking the guys that made the videos. They're just terrible. They're not very helpful. So now I wish like crazy I would have made that video of me tearing into it, but I didn't. So if that's something that y'all would like to see, is me putting it back together, I can either show it really detailed, or I can just kind of make it fun, whatever y'all think, and I'll decide from there. But we will definitely have a video putting this back together. Guys, thank y'all so much. Like and subscribe for more.